Paris is choking in smoke and fog, but that night, was the city fighting only chaos? The Gardes-Meubles National Depot, were the royal treasures truly safe, or was everyone's eye upon them? A broken lock, a hidden ladder, was this merely a robbery or part of a much larger plan? Priceless stones have vanished, but who took them and what was their true purpose? The France Bleu disappeared from sight. This mystery remains unsolved. So when will the secrets finally come to light?
September 1792. Paris was choking not only on the smoke of coal and the noise of provocative political speeches, but also on the intense uncertainty caused by the greatest break in history. This was the climax of the political tension and social anger that France had accumulated over decades. There were two reasons for these events. Firstly, the symbolic splendor of the old monarchy was being crushed under the chaotic disorder of the newly established government, meaning the people had been freed from a king, but this freedom had a price, and the weight of that price was steadily increasing. The other reason was that with the triumph of the revolution, the concepts of law and order were fundamentally shaken. The city smelled of blood immediately after the September massacres, Massacre de Septembre. The streets were filled with political lynchings, acts of social revenge, and the looting of gangs. This situation created a perfect breeding ground for crime. In the midst of this turmoil, Paris's most valuable treasure was kept in the Gardes-Meubles National Depot near the Place de la Concorde. This structure, which outwardly resembled a magnificent palace, contained the material heart of the French monarchy inside. That is, a large part of the crown jewels, furniture, and works of art were here. The collection here was not just material wealth, but also a concrete testament to national pride and the past. In fact, the symbols of the monarchy were still clearly visible even on the facade of the building. This structure, therefore, stood like a ghost of the old regime in the midst of the revolution's claimed victory, practically attracting everyone's attention. No matter how rich the building was, it was protected during this period by weak locks and untrained guards. Professional guards loyal to the crown before the revolution were gone, replaced by volunteer revolutionary militias. These militias lacked military discipline and professional expertise. That is, the simplicity of the locks and security measures formed a complete contrast with the enormous treasure inside. The building's security at the time rested on a misleading sense of confidence created by old habits and empty uniforms. This situation meant not only material value for the robbers, but also a challenge to the government, the victim, that is, the symbolic heritage of the French nation. Considering the pathetic inadequacy of the security system at the time, the priceless jewels here had, in fact, only paper protection. The first shock came on those gloomy September mornings of 1792. This incident was not a hasty one-night robbery. The thieves carried out this great act over almost 5 nights, starting from September 11th. The official discovery of the incident took place on the morning of September 17th by one of the officials working in the building and attempting to take inventory on behalf of the revolutionary government. Militia Commander Sergeant noticed that a simple lock on the treasure room door was forced, or not forced at all. Commander Sergeant had experienced a deep shock upon the scene he encountered. The mess and empty display cases inside were evidence not only of a theft, but of a comfortable operation lasting days. Ladders propped against the walls and ropes used to descend from the roofs were found. This indicated that the thieves had virtually lodged in the building and carried out their work systematically without rushing. The fact that the safes and display cases were empty showed that not only precious metals, but also priceless stones of historical importance were missing. This loss, at that moment, meant the tarnishing of national honor, beyond the loss of a mere treasure. Among the stolen items were the Regent diamond, one of the largest diamonds of the French crown, and the large blue diamond known at the time as the France blue. This large blue diamond would later be called the Hope diamond. The militias and local officials who arrived at the scene were confronted with the first concrete proof of how much the concepts of justice and security were adrift amidst the hopes brought by the revolution.
This terrible scene showed that Paris's political leaders were facing one of the country's greatest catastrophes. What was stolen was not just the jewels, but also the reputation of the new republic. This situation would further strain the already tense nerves of the public. The first moment the incident was discovered revealed the deep chaos in the judicial structure of the newly established revolutionary Paris. The robbery of a symbolic building like the Gardes-Meubles required immediate action. However, there was no central, trained law enforcement agency to manage a crime of this magnitude. Two major problems stood out here. Firstly, the initial officials who arrived at the scene, namely the local district militia commanders, experienced jurisdictional confusion among themselves. There was no clear protocol on who should lead the investigation. This situation signaled an institutional catastrophe even at the start of the inquiry. The other problem was that the Revolutionary Guards of this period were individuals who had not received professional detective training. They were committed to political ideals, but were completely amateur regarding crime scene protection, evidence collection, or legal data analysis. That is, it was impossible for the investigation to rest on a scientific basis. The crime scene was rapidly contaminated. Ropes, wine bottles, and other traces left on the roof found at the scene were simply noted by officials, but were not placed under protection.
The chronology of this robbery revealed how great a chain of negligence the officials exhibited. The incident began during the night hours of Tuesday, September 11, 1792, and continued until the night of Sunday, September 16. That is, the thieves had set up a veritable headquarters for themselves in the National Treasury Depot for 5 nights uninterrupted. According to data obtained from police records, the thieves infiltrated the building from the roof, meaning from the weak and shaded areas. Furthermore, it was determined that the locks used to reach the treasury room were either not forced at all or were opened with simple tools. This indicated that the thieves either knew the building's security vulnerabilities very well or had received inside help. The comfort of the thieves inside, calmly eating and drinking wine in Paris's most valuable building at the time, was a concrete indicator of how much the order had collapsed. According to the raw information gathered, the thieves did not hurry even when leaving the building. They left the heaviest and least valuable jewels, preferring the lightweight, priceless, and easily transportable ones, such as the Regent diamond. The most critical piece of information in the investigation was the list of stolen items. This revealed not only the material value of the stolen goods, but also how great a threat the legal memory of French history was under. The Regent diamond on the list was an indispensable part of the French crown jewels. It was one of the largest and most valuable diamonds in the world at that time. Its theft directly targeted the political and economic reputation of the nation.
Another valuable item was the France blue, Bleu de France. This rare and large blue diamond would later transform into the famous Hope diamond. Its loss meant the disappearance of the most unique piece of the national jewel collection. The other stolen items on the list were numerous pearls, rubies, sapphires, and symbols of the crown. Police records and eyewitness testimonies showed that these valuable stones were removed from the building systematically and piece by piece. However, these statements were often contradictory and influenced by political rumors. That is, investigators had great difficulty separating correct information from false information.
As seen in similar historical events, under the shadow of hysteria and political prejudice, eyewitness testimony became the most unreliable evidence. The progress of the investigation virtually turned into a dead end due to the inadequate technology and institutional deficiencies of the era. Forensic science techniques such as fingerprint analysis or ballistics examination were not available at the time. The police's only reliance was on intuition, rumors, and eyewitness statements, often purchasable through bribery. In addition to all these events, the September massacres that occurred just before and after this robbery further increased the pressure on the investigators. The government had to quickly find someone to appease the public's anger. The legal process was sacrificed to a political necessity. The police were navigating Paris's underworld to catch fugitives and suspects, but they had no concrete chain of evidence. The raw data of the investigation only included general suspicions about foreigners and former monarchists in the region. These suspicions would make the investigation biased from the start. The few honest and capable officers conducting the investigation during this period were under incredible emotional pressure. On one hand, they had the task of solving the country's greatest disgrace, and on the other, inadequate resources and constantly changing political orders. These officers knew that the stolen jewels were no longer just precious stones, but the symbol of the nation's lost honor. Public expectation was very high. There was a demand for the country's greatest loss to be compensated quickly. This represented the legal and moral pressure weighing on the detective's shoulders. That is, the pursuit of justice was caught between politics and public pressure. Surprisingly, the resolution of this major robbery depended more on luck than on police skill. Two events that could be considered miracles under these circumstances took place. One of the ringleaders of the robbery gang was caught as a result of an informant's tip, or due to his own carelessness. This person is referred to as Paul Miette in some records. Afterwards, Miette, once captured, quickly cooperated, revealing his other accomplices and the hiding places of the jewels.
Thanks to these confessions, a large part of the jewels, including the Regent diamond, were found hidden in thickets or attics outside Paris. However, this showed that the investigation's resolution was the result of a random confession, not professional work. This once again revealed the inadequacy of the new regime's police force. However, some critical pieces like the France Bleu were not found. The fate of these pieces remained the biggest secret of the investigation records. The institutional deadlock of the investigation and the revelation that the jewels were stolen in a comfortable operation lasting days created a deep wave of anger and fear among the Parisian public. The inadequacy of the post-revolution government to protect its own most valuable asset eliminated the last fragments of public trust in this new authority. That is, the Gardes-Meubles robbery became a national disgrace. This incident spread with sensational headlines in the press and on the streets. Newspapers debated the political meaning of the loss more than the details of the theft. This resulting picture led to mass hysteria. Conspiracy theories spread rapidly. The public believed there must be more than just simple thieves behind a robbery of this scale. Whispers that spread through the back alleys of Paris at night turned into smear campaigns leaping from newspaper headlines during the day. The public had one question in mind: where would these jewels be used? One segment believed they were stolen to finance the émigré army of aristocrats abroad. Another segment thought foreign spies organized this act to undermine the country's economic power. In both cases, logic succumbed to mass fear. The public saw a foreign agent or a secret monarchist spy working to smuggle the jewels abroad in every shadow. The country's greatest wealth had become the proof of the greatest betrayal.
Despite the fact that a large part of the jewels, including critical pieces like the Regent diamond, were found through the confession of the suspect Paul Miette, the legal process did not slow down. On the contrary, it took on a brutal pace. The government had to quickly execute an act of vengeance to appease the public's anger and suspicions.
Acting on this idea, the biographical information of the main suspect, Paul Miette, and his gang was presented to the press by the investigating militias in a manner suitable for political conspirators. The thieves were portrayed as instruments of an anti-revolutionary plot. This haste compounded the emotional pressure on the investigators. Prosecutors and judges were under the visible pressure of the Revolutionary Tribunal. Thus, courtrooms became an arena for proclaiming the power of the new regime rather than a place to prove the supremacy of law. The crowded, intense atmosphere of the trials was like an execution decree beneath a theater curtain. The aim here was not the realization of justice, but the satisfaction of public opinion. The seriousness on the judges' faces reflected the weight of public expectation. The sole purpose of the court's decision was to show that the revolution's power was indisputable. The halls where the trials were held were places where fear and anger intensified. The moments of suspect interrogation focused less on detectives presenting concrete evidence and more on questioning the defendant's loyalty to the revolution. Judges were compelled to deliver quick verdicts that guaranteed conviction. The scales of justice were bending under political necessity. At the time, even on the streets of Paris, the court's decision was known beforehand. This was an indication that the principle of fair trial was completely suspended.
The main suspect arrested, Paul Miette, was not a simple street thief. He was the leader of a professional gang of criminals known for large-scale robberies even before the revolution. Miette's biography showed that the robbery was not a poorly planned amateur act. Furthermore, Miette's rapid cooperation and demonstration of the jewel's location proved that his case was a professional criminal act rather than a political conspiracy. The contradiction deepened between legal facts and political rhetoric. This contradiction continued to preoccupy the public mind even outside the courtroom. Despite public announcements that the investigation was quickly solved by Miette's confession, permanent obstacles remained in the legal process. The biggest obstacle was the absolute failure to find the most symbolic and priceless pieces, such as the France bleu. This situation strengthened the conspiracy theories that the arrested gang was merely a front, or that part of the jewels had fallen into the hands of real political conspirators. The lack of evidence left a permanent trace supporting the hypotheses of skeptical analysts. The swift and politically motivated execution of Miette and his accomplices did not fully soothe the conscience of the public seeking justice. This showed that the newly established justice system was only capable of punishing the surface criminals, but did not have the power to reach the deeper, organized, and political crime networks. That is, the system tried to save its own reputation more than solve the crime. These hasty executions created the feeling that they were creating political victims rather than serving as a deterrent for future criminals. Even though the public celebrated the return of the Regent Diamond, they knew deep down that the eternal disappearance of the France bleu symbolized a loss in the nation's soul.
The justice system aimed to appease the public's anger rather than fully uncover the truth. This political necessity left the entire potential depth of the case on the surface. The judges' and prosecutors' motive to protect their political careers eliminated the chance for the case's genuine clarification. Furthermore, with the closure of the investigation under political pressure, the analysis of collected evidence and witness statements remained superficial. Amateur clues found at the scene, such as ropes, glass shards, and wine bottles, could not be examined with scientific discipline by the inadequate police force of the time. This reinforced the legal obstacles of the investigation. The available information could not go beyond raw data filtered through political rhetoric. The notes kept by police and militias in the investigation files could not substitute for detailed laboratory analyses. This was proof that the chain of evidence was broken from the very beginning. Moreover, some detectives ignored this information, fearing that the evidence they found would lead to results that political leaders would not like. The culture of fear completely destroyed the objectivity of the investigation. The final hypotheses regarding the case's resolution create a deep dilemma about the nature of the Gardes-Meubles robbery. In these examinations, the incident is observed to be based on two fundamental scenarios. This dilemma forms the core mystery of the case.
Firstly, the perspective of simple professional robbery is considered. According to official records and Miette's confession, the robbery was the work of a professional gang of thieves led by Paul Miette. This hypothesis is based on the gang's history of committing major crimes even before the revolution and their specialization in theft. The gang's actions, working comfortably for days, and the strategy of choosing the most easily transportable and most valuable pieces support this hypothesis. For example, leaving behind gigantic royal swords and large gold-plated items showed their focus on value density rather than weight. This view seeks no political or ideological purpose behind the incident. It only assumes opportunism and material gain. However, this hypothesis harbors the biggest flaw, the fate of the Franz Bleu. If the goal was only wealth, why did the blue diamond, one of the largest and most quickly marketable pieces, disappear? Why did the piece most coveted for money not return?
Another perspective presented is under the title of pawns of a political conspiracy. This hypothesis suggests that the Maniac gang was just a pawn. As mentioned earlier, the social hysteria and political environment gave rise to the suspicion that the incident was financed by external powers. Firstly, it is possible that the stolen jewels, the national capital, were used to finance aristocrats or enemy armies abroad. This scenario creates the tension that in those chaotic nights in Paris, foreign agents in black cloaks managed Maniette from the roofs, meaning an invisible hand coordinated the robbery. Additionally, Maniette's quick confession and cooperation might actually have been a maneuver intended to conceal a larger organization. That is, Maniette, instead of saving his own life, may have protected the real organizers by presenting himself and the gang as political victims. This hypothesis explains the finding of easily located large pieces like the Regent diamond with the idea that the conspirators deliberately left them to divert attention. This situation is considered an indicator of the deep political upheaval and corruption within the revolution. For in a divided and politicized state apparatus, it is not surprising that even the greatest crime becomes a political instrument. The France Blue Diamond is a locked door of this case. This diamond would become what we know today as the Hope Diamond, but its whereabouts for several years after it was stolen in 1792 are completely dark. The failure to recover this diamond is the strongest evidence supporting the idea that the Maniette gang was a pawn. Consequently, Miette's confession and the hurried police investigation failed to uncover this diamond. That is, Miette either refused or was unable to hand over the key piece. The diamond was likely smuggled abroad, then broken up and sold secretly. This sale must have been the work of a political structure with international smuggling networks, not a street criminal like Miette. When it reappeared after many years of silence, the diamond's weight and cut had changed. This was concrete evidence that the diamond was recut to cover its tracks after it was stolen. This recutting process is the strongest evidence suggesting that the crime was covered up by an organized and professional network. When we analyze the investigation of that period with today's forensic science techniques, we can see more clearly why the case remained unresolved. The police of the time relied only on eyewitness testimonies and confessions. They were completely lacking in scientific methodology. If modern DNA analysis or criminal profiling techniques had existed at the time, the financial or political connections behind Miette's gang could have been revealed much more clearly. This data shows that the main reason for the case's insolubility was not the complexity of the crime, but institutional inadequacy and political pressure. Reflecting on this, the frustration felt by historians and analysts who chase the case is clear. The intellectual disappointment of seeing that only the visible face of justice could be served. This event has left a striking legacy, showing that the revolutionary government sacrificed the truth for its own interests. That is, in the chaos of September 1792, the greatest national secret veil was never fully lifted.
The Gardes-Meubles robbery, 1792, did not only go down in history as a major loss of treasure, it also became concrete proof of the new revolutionary government's deep inadequacy regarding authority and security. Firstly, this incident revealed how vital the need for a central and professional police force was, even in the most chaotic moments of the French Revolution. Meaning, the inadequacy of the local militias showed they could not manage a crime of this magnitude. So how could the public expect justice from a government that couldn't even ensure its own safety? This formed the basis of the lasting erosion of trust created by the robbery. Immediately after this robbery, official security protocols for the protection of national treasures were established for the first time. Officials had to admit that the robbery had lasted for days. This paved the way for institutional measures such as continuous surveillance of guards and more reliable locking systems. This incident was one of the first major traumas that led to a forced evolution of the modern French police system and criminal law processes. Public pressure forced the government to act. However, were these reforms a belated reaction or an attempt to cover up the insolubility? The piece that remained most memorable after the robbery and became the symbol of insolubility was the France Bleu diamond. The failure to find the diamond and its subsequent reappearance a few years later as the Hope diamond revealed the gaps in the recording of the international jewel trade. This, firstly, became the most striking example of the practice of valuable stones being smuggled abroad illegally and recut to cover their tracks. Furthermore, the story of this diamond showed that legal processes could not merely be content with punishing the criminal, but also had to ensure the tracking of lost assets. The fate of the France Bleu represents a piece in the nation's memory that has still not been fully recovered. This loss is an emotional legacy, showing how many valuable things were sacrificed in the chaos of the revolution. But more importantly, was the failure to return this diamond the greatest proof of Miette's innocence or his political connections? Were the thieves who stole the diamond merely thieves, or were they extensions of a greater power corroding the country from within? This loss has remained a veil of secrecy that disturbs the conscience of historians even hundreds of years later. Did the law achieve justice by executing Miette and his gang, or did it merely choose victims to close the curtain on a political theater? The Regent diamond returned, but the eternal mystery of the France Bleu and the suspicion of unanswered political connections ensured that this robbery remained a mystery fully unresolved in the pages of history. So in the turmoil of 1792 Paris, do you blame the officials who gave up on the pursuit of truth, or the irresistible political pressure exerted on the justice system? The truth itself may never emerge, but what was stolen in Paris that night was not just jewels, but a nation's trust.